We're going to look at augmented reality. Many brands have experimented with augmented reality, but how many of them have actually made it fundamental to their marketing strategy? They could be held back by costs, they could be held back by other concerns. I'd like to introduce to you next Mikaela Eskenazi, who is the Chief Commercial Officer of Blippar, a UK-based technology company that specialises in augmented reality and computer vision. Emma is going to explain this to us now. Please welcome Emma. Sorry, I apologise. Please welcome Mikaela.
Thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Mikaela Eskenazi, Chief Commercial Officer at Blippar, and very happy to be here today to speak about the impact of augmented reality in our lives, but also on brands and retail and marketing in general. So the way we're going to do that today is just to go through some of the state of AR today, where we are, how the perception of AR is, then go a bit more into examples and case studies of how brands are already using that, and then I'll speak a bit more about future trends and what we can expect in the future. So very briefly, for those of you who don't know Blippar, we're one of the leaders in augmented reality software. Since 2011, we've worked with thousands of brands with the largest names in the world, and we have thousands of people using our software and our platforms, especially agencies, to service their clients. I've personally been with the company for about 6 years in this industry, so I also look forward to sharing some of that insight with you today. So let's look at where AR is in general right now. So just to get a sense in this room, who has experienced AR, not just heard of it? Okay, great. So quite a few of you here. So if we look at the mass audience in general, when you speak about AR, they'll have a few things in mind. So the first one is obviously Pokemon Go, which was one of the most downloaded apps in the world. At some point, it had 500 million users using it at the same time, which encouraged people to go and collect, Pokemon creatures in the real world. And it was an absolute phenomenon, and I think a real awakening that the world is ready to kind of go outside and interact with digital things in the digital world while being on their mobile phones. The second one is obviously Snapchat filters that millions of people use that every day without knowing. This is what we call face tracking, and it's a form of overlaying digital content on our faces. And of course, with the likes of Black Mirror, there's also a lot of fantasy around AR and what it's going to become with some worst case scenarios, etc. So when we look at this, AR is still slightly gimmicky in the minds, adopted through game, a bit scary in movies, but essentially we know it's going to have a huge impact in the next few years. So let's look at the numbers first of all. So first of all, I just wanted to separate what is virtual reality and augmented reality. These two technologies are usually mentioned at the same time, even research is done for them in the same bucket, but they're fundamentally extremely different. So on one side, we have augmented reality, which is all about connecting with the physical world, being very present with where you are and enhancing that world with digital content. That market is predicted to reach 90 billion in 2022. That's about a 19x growth in the next 4 years, which is really tremendous. And of course, it will impact billions of users because this is a technology that we can access through our smartphones without having the need of any other sophisticated device. On the other side, we have virtual reality, which is a market that's going to reach 15 billion by 2022. And that is all about being completely immersed in another world and really taking people outside of the physical reality where they are. And somewhere in the middle, we have what we call mixed reality. So this is the likes of HoloLens, for example, where you put a device on your head, but you're still connected with the physical world. So today we'll focus more around augmented reality, but clearly a very large portion of this growth and of the market. Also something to know that 70% of that growth and of that revenue is going to come from ad spend, from e-commerce, and from hardware. So undoubtedly it's going to have a huge impact on media and marketing as well. So this is also very much backed by the big technology leaders. So you have, the likes of Apple saying things like, AR is going to be as important as eating 3 meals a day, and once it's arrived, we will wonder how we ever lived without it. So pretty bold statements from very big leaders. We have obviously them launching a software called AR Kit, which enables to build AR apps on iOS. The same was launched by Google, called AR Core. And we also have Facebook that launched their AR Lens Studio, which allows developers to build face masks for people. So big investments coming in from the big players. So why is this all happening right now? Why is this all coming together, and why is everybody so excited? One of the key reasons for that is that the camera is becoming the primary computing interface. So essentially, the way that we use our phones is massively shifting, right? A few years ago, it was very much about a keyboard, about typing things. Then we went into the touch screen, and if you see any kid today playing with a device, they will definitely, swipe or do something like that. It's very natural. And now we're moving into natural language with voice, which we've heard about just in the previous talk, becoming so important, and also visual. So why is that happening? It's also because our phones are merging with us, right? It's smartphones that we constantly have in our hands. But what's very interesting is what part of the phone we use, and that is the camera. The camera has become the #1 feature on the phone that we use. So we constantly have this camera either filming things, taking pictures, taking selfies, whatever that is. But essentially, we have an interface between us and the real world. And that gives a huge opportunity to add layer on top of that. So we have our worlds kind of merging, us with technology. With AI, we also have those cameras becoming much smarter. So it's not only filming, but it's starting to understand, to analyze what is happening on the world. And all these things are coming together, and this is why AR is going to become such an important part of our lives. So diving a bit more into concrete use cases and how are brands already doing that today. So first of all, these are some high-level numbers gathered from external research. So what we see already is that augmented reality delivers 45% higher levels of attention than TV, right? That's huge. So we know that's going to have a very big impact in the next few years. 90% higher engagement from a normal experience to an experience with AR, and likelihood of increasing purchase by 135%. So of course, these are different types of research, but we really see signals there that is having an impact on our memory, on our perception, on our way of learning, and of course, on our way in ingesting content that we need to consider. This is on our platform in particular. So what we see across the thousands of campaigns that we have run, we see that we have 3 minutes engagement and dwell time. It's pretty unparalleled in terms of engagement if you look at any other digital numbers today. Scans per user, so that's for one experience for one brand. On average, people would come back 4 times. And what we call the interaction rate is the accessibility to the campaign, for example, through a product versus the amount of people that convert to actually have that AR experience is 13%. So also very high conversion rates compared to a traditional digital experience. So there's really something there, and this is what is also really attracting brands into using this medium. So if we go into use cases, and we're kind of going to look at them in 3 ways. The first one is around, the pre-purchase, the awareness experience, people before they start buying, how we can integrate AR. Then during the purchase time, how we can increase consideration and how we can help them choose. And finally, how we can enhance the product and the experience after the consumer has purchased the product or the service. So the first example here is with JLR. So this is using what we call a web-based AR technology. So this is without the use of any app. This is AR in browser. And as you'll see there is a banner ad which is enabled by AR. So this is a real example that has run in the US. So the consumer clicks on the mobile phone, they're able to experience the car in VR first, and they give access to the camera, and then they are immersed in the car. Unfortunately, that demo was taken in our office. It would be a bit more real if you were somewhere else. But the point is here that you can immerse yourself in a few seconds just on your mobile phone in an AR experience in the car. So looking at the results there, 75% engagement. So this means people that have actually seen clicked on the banner and then decided to go into the AR experience. 121 seconds of dwell time, so again, extremely high, especially compared to other rich media banners or other media out there. And click-through rates to go to the test drive, which is obviously what is the most important metric here for the advertiser to collect the data. So very powerful way of doing that. So visualization is very key in AR, and you also see, for example, brands like IKEA who have integrated that into their application, where you can actually place every single one of their furniture in your home and visualize that and understand how it would feel before you buy. So a very powerful way of using AR. Second example is with Coty and a brand called Max Factor, which is part of their portfolio. This was a campaign done with Leo Burnett in the UK. And essentially, what we did here is to transform every single one of their products, so 500 products, into a personal assistant, a beauty advisor, if you like, that allowed each product to say, what are other people thinking about that product? What colors are there? How can you use it? And all the content that you would actually find on e-commerce, but on the product. So consumers can actually scan the product and then have all that information. Now, what's interesting there is that all of that content is not new content. It's all online, it's all on their e-commerce somewhere. But you're enabling a behavior that's already there, right? I go into the store, I'm not sure what I want, I'm gonna go on my phone, I'm gonna try to Google something on the side and reach content. Well, the brand embraced that behavior and said, well, actually, I'm gonna help my consumer make that choice and empower them in the store. So again, very compelling results there, with consumers coming more than 3 times, 82 click-through rates to the purchase buttons, and 70% of them say they would trust the recommendation. So the app was also allowing them to recommend different colors that would go with their skin tone, for example. The beauty market is one of the most mature markets in terms of AR. And just a few weeks ago, L'Oreal acquired a company called Modiface, which is one of the leaders in AR makeup face tracking. So really, again, showing that signal that brands are using that not just as a gimmick, but really as a true marketing strategy that has impact on the way they interact with consumers. And finally, this is an example with Cadbury, collaborating with an agency called Design Bridge. And here, essentially, it was an advent calendar that was transformed into an AR experience after you buy it, right? So really engaging the consumer after that experience. So as you can see here, the consumers could scan the advent calendar and every day unlock different types of masks, different types of experiences. And that was, of course, in the same theme of the advent calendar, where you unlock that every single day. So this is a new advent calendar that they launched that year. And the new calendar immediately reached the top 3 most sold advent calendars in the UK. So really showing the impact there. Just in a few weeks, more than 200,000 interactions. 7% of the calendars were interacted with. So again, it's a very high engagement rate. And once people were in their experience, you know, the engagement went on to more than 5 times, people coming back, and obviously sharing that also on social media. So a great way to taking that AR experience beyond just the purchase point, but continuing that interaction with the consumers. So this is kind of what we can see right now. Today, many brands are adopting AR in different ways, experimenting. Some, fail, some win, some industries are more mature because the use case is very clear. But what I wanted to do as well is to share with you 3 things that we think are going to be very important in the AR landscape in the future. So the first one is that your product is going to become your new media. Today, we look at objects, and they are just objects, but in future, those will be enhanced by AR, be it a squash that you find in a supermarket that will have a Jamie Oliver recipe, or from your own products and your own product range that will start talking and giving more information to people. So one example of that, which we're already doing, so this is a pilot with an insurance in the US. So the phone allows you to scan a car, so it recognizes the model of the car, will give you all the information, and then once you're interested, will give you a pre-populated insurance code directly for you. So this is really somebody being in the street, being interested in a car, in 1 second being able to scan and receive an insurance code. So really shifting consumers' behaviors there as well. And we see that we're going to see that happening across the board. It can be, for example, in fashion. I like your dress, I want the same, let me scan it and have a recommendation for that, which is also already happening. The second big trend is that we're going to have virtual ownerships of locations. Sorry, let me just go back to that. So as we know, once lenses and AR is kind of more accessible, and we've seen that through maps, which I'll show now, obviously that's going to give a lot of opportunity to portray content. So, how will Pret, for example, in this case, make sure that once I'm interacting in that street, that their content is being portrayed versus something else. So a big impact on retail and how they're going to embrace extending their physical presence into the virtual world as well. So here, this is AR City. This is a prototype app that we have launched on iOS, showcasing how AR and computer vision come together to essentially put AR into cities. So here you can go around, it can guide you in the city. So this is a real video of how it's happening. And actually, Google just launched that on Android last week. So this is not very futuristic, this is happening now. But as you can imagine, we have to start thinking about how advertising will start coming to life into that environment, and how you're not going to bid only on keywords, but you're going to want to bid on locations as well. And finally, every lens is interactive. So today we think about the phone. This is the primary camera that we use, but this is going to become glasses that we wear. It can become lenses. It's going to be the cars that we're in. So today, automated cars also use computer vision. So the AI part of that computers understand how the sight, essentially, to interact with the world and understand where they go. But this is also going to go one step further when they're going to overlay content as well. So hopefully you'll share this thought with me that AR is going to have a big impact in our world, and that we have to start thinking about it for our brands and our consumers. And I'll be happy to answer questions after Emma's talk as well. Thank you very much.